drive up was beautiful. I can really sense a true community here, and Thich Nhat Hanh had said, the future of spirituality is through community. And so you have done a great job at putting a really loving community that's very functional, obviously, with all the announcements. Here in the neighborhood, I'm supposed to raise this, I'm getting a look from the back. Now, I try to keep my voice down because I have a big voice, but now everyone can hear, whether you want to or not, right? So, I am so happy we have a clear podium. The reason I'm happy is that I wore pants, because if I didn't have leggings on, you wouldn't see in this. So, as Joe had said earlier, I was moved to Atlanta, Georgia with a job, and I was in a bank, and the woman that was in the bank on the board was on the board of the Religious Science Church. Her name was Carla. And so she invited me, she was such a successful woman in all the right ways. She lived a very harmonious life. She had a beautiful car. She had wonderful accounts in Atlanta. And I just watched her with my mouth open going, she's just a regular person. How does she do so well just being Carla? And so she said to me, I went in her office one day and I said, how do you do this? I was frustrated and I thought, she got all the good accounts. She got Delta Airlines and things like that. She did so well and was such a loving person, and I just couldn't figure it out. Having come from the Midwest, we were a little more structured there, a little bit more rough around the edges, and she had a real softness about her, and I said, what is it? And she goes, I'll tell you what, I'll put some information in your top desk drawer. So I came in that next day, and there in my top desk drawer was a packet from the Atlanta Church of Religious Science. Now, I hadn't been in a church in 25 years, and I looked at that packet, I picked it up, and I thought, the church? A church? A Southern church? Oh my, no, I hope I don't have to dip that low. So I went in her office, and she goes, I've invited you to the service on Sunday, you should go. Well, she's the one that got me the job. She was a vice president at the bank, and I thought, oh God, so I'll go. So I went, and just as Joe had said earlier, it was truly a thrilling experience. The second time I went. The first time I went, I thought, I wish it was like this. I wish the things that minister was saying, it was a huge church. I wish the things that all these people were hearing were true. This isn't how it works. Life is tough. Things are tough. It's, if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen to me. All those cliches we were handed from first grade on. And I sat there and heard him say, life is good, God is good. I thought, you have a different God than me. And so all these things, but I went the second time and I actually listened. I was a little bit more relaxed. People were hugging each other, and I thought, I'm from Milwaukee, we don't hug. And so it was just a wonderful, loving crowd, and I really, really enjoyed being there. But it was kind of, when I look back now, what happened 40 years ago, because that's about how long it's been, I realized that in some sense, it was a miracle of things happening. And as Einstein said, either everything is a miracle or nothing is a miracle. And the beauty of that statement is we get to make the choice. Which one is for us? And all the things working together to get Carla and I together, to get me in that church in the back row. I didn't want to go down any further. It was a big auditorium. I sat in the very last row. And I thought, I'm not hugging anybody. It's just, I'll sit here and see what happens. So it was a thrilling experience. I really enjoyed it. And of course, I kept going for the next 30 years. And this teaching has been really the main core of my life. Not that I've always demonstrated things perfectly, and I've run into trouble, and I've had the flu and all the things that they say, change your thinking, change your mind, yes. But I'm also a human having a spiritual experience. So the human experiences of all these things I've also experienced. But I had to go back to the spiritual core of who I am, who we are individually and as a community, to know that we can move beyond, do better, expand, become more, because we are more. And I really have to compliment you, every one of you, for putting together this light on the planet, because that's what this is. You bring light to where there's darkness. And that is truly one of the best jobs you can do. When you're at the end of it all, when you look at what you've done, what you've said, where you've been, who you know, how much money you have, blah, 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 what kind of car you drive, whatever, your real duty has been to bring this light, and you've done it. It's a functional, good community. It was wonderful walking in here. People are so open and willing and giving. And as it was announced earlier, it's easier to give than to receive, isn't it? Yes. And so you're giving what the world really needs. So what I did after I got into the teaching, I started to look for people that lived this philosophy. To me, that helped. Yes, it's great to have people in the community and give them a hug. I actually hug people now. And so actually give them a hug and enjoy their company and listen to what they have to say. However, it's just equally as important to look for others who really live the core of this teaching, or at least that's what I did. Because I thought, I just can't go on Sunday. I took all the classes, did all the things, did all the things I needed to do to become an ordained minister. I did all that, got through it. However, the core of meeting people in community and as neighbors sometimes, as co-workers, as relatives, we can see that light shine. And it is the miracle of life. That is the miracle. We don't need to go any further than to recognize that we are the miracle. Guess what? And it's a big duty. It really is, but it is what we are here for. It is what I say every morning in my meditation. It is my purpose. It is my duty. It's why I'm here, is to express God as vents on this plane of action for the glory of God. And how can you do that better than loving people? And that's what I see here. Congratulations. I think that's really great. Well, the hero that I found when I wanted to find somebody that practiced this teaching and lived it, truly, was a man by the name of Rob. Now, granted, we have all our great practitioners. We have our Science of Mind magazine. Ernest Holmes was great. I went to lectures by Charles Barker and all these wonderful people that wrote these books that are in your library. I enjoyed them. Deepak Chopra, Wayne Dyer, all these. Louise Hay, certainly. Oh my God, who can't love Louise Hay? And it was just these people that inspired me, and they made me raise in consciousness. Now, a lot of people say, this is motivational. Well, it is, but it really is inspirational. When I was a kid, I was motivated to mow the lawn. And I'll tell you why. My father was German, and he'd scream at us if we didn't mow the lawn. So I was very motivated to mow the lawn. However, as I got older, when I was a teenager and people would drive by our house, I was inspired to mow the lawn because I wanted the house to look nice. I wanted people to like where we lived. So I was inspired. In other words, it was an inside activity that not forced me, but supported me into mowing the lawn became a different experience. Not because I was motivated. When I was motivated, I mowed the lawn, but I wasn't inspired. And when you're inspired to do something, you do it so differently. And you've been inspired to bring light to the world, or you wouldn't be here, every one of you, whether you know it or not. That is really in your job description, is to inspire, and you do, just by your presence. So I looked for others, and I found this guy. He's a great guy. I hope maybe you haven't heard of him. It doesn't make any difference. His name is Robert Mueller. He was one of the first people that started the United Nations. He was born in Belgium in 1926. He just died in 2010, I believe. And so his time on Earth was really as a light. It really was. You know, our mission statement at CPL, at the Centers for Richer Living, is to have a world that works for everybody. What a beautiful goal. What an inspiring thought, is to have a world that works for everybody, to be inclusive, to be loving, to be giving, all the things that you hear here that you could read on the walls here, all those inspiring quotes. And he was that person. He was born in Belgium in 1923. It had just, World War I had just ravaged Europe. And so he looked at the world and couldn't figure out as a kid why all this fighting was going on. He would stay in his grandmother's house, and he would look out his bedroom window. And he was born in Belgium. They were on the border. And he would look out at the window, and he would see another country right across the street. And he'd see guards and guns and trucks and gates and everything that stopped them from going into this other country. And he said, why do we need borders like this? Why can't there be one? Why, in other words, why can't we have a world that works for everybody? And like you, he has dedicated his main source to bring light to the world. He wanted the world to be open. And so he was the first assistant secretary actually, at the United Nations. He wanted borders dissolved so we could be at oneness with each other. He was really a science-a-minder, but didn't know it. So he lived it. It was wonderful. I just really thought it was just, he got the Nobel Peace, was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize many times. He got Man of the Year, Global Citizen of the Year. If you Google his name, he probably got 20 to 30 awards in his lifetime for making the world work for everybody. He lived this. He was inspired to do it and got all the support that he needed. He was, like I said, the secretary. But one of the things that taught him this, like we have centers like this, we're very fortunate. I consider myself so fortunate to have found the church in Atlanta. And I found it because life is a miracle. I went to Carla's office. I was looking for more money, and I ended up getting the church and having more life. So it was really a beautiful thing. I thought I was after one thing, and in the way in the left field, God always plays in the left field. You can't see what's coming. So that's a good thing. You don't know what's going to come. So we've got that going on, and when you don't know what's coming, it gets kind of scary. I'm from Chicago. There was in the fire department. They live right in those houses, and there was two really good friends. There was an African American gentleman and a white gentleman. And they were the best friends. They went to each other's family outings. They supported each other. They would do things together. And one of the things that happened, the only thing they argued about was God. And the African American said, God is black. There's just absolutely no doubt. Africa was the first nation that, the cradle of civilization. So God must be black. And the other fireman said, oh no, God's white. I saw the pictures in grade school. God has to be white. I saw it, what? And so they both died within very close to each other, and they get to heaven, and St. Peter said, oh yeah, you too. You saved a lot of lives, and you helped a lot of people. You have a special room, a waiting room. God wants to talk to you. So they were excited. So they went into the waiting room, and they're sitting there, and they're still saying to each other, God is white, God is black. No, God is white, God is black. So all of a sudden they could hear footsteps coming down the hallway. The big door bangs open. This big bellowing voice says, Buenos dias, senor. You never know who's coming. So here we've got Robert Mueller. And what did he do that I think his greatest work was this? He was in the French resistance during the war, and there was probably no people treated worse if they were caught than the resistance people. They fought underground for freedom. And he joined that. They got a roommate. They had to hide in Paris, France, because if they were discovered or known, they would have been killed instantly, or tortured first, of course. But the reality is, he lived with this guy, and this guy got sick, and they couldn't go to a doctor because they would have been found out. They would have been turned in. So the guy got tuberculosis, which is really serious. And that gentleman, Robert Mueller, watched him every morning get up, look in the mirror, and go, in every way, every day, I'm getting better and better. And that was from Emile Coué, the famous philosopher and psychologist. And he would look in the mirror and say, every day, in every way, I'm getting better and better. And Robert Mueller watched this man actually get better. Without medicine, without doctors, without hospitals, he got better. So he knew there was something, didn't he? Just like we do. We know there is a power for good, greater than us all, and we can use it. We just have to recognize it, believe in it, and accept it. And so he got better. So Robert Mueller had a very important job in Paris. He would go in one of those tall, skinny buildings that has like a round silo-looking thing on the side, and he would go to the top one and look out on the crossroads. There were all the roads that came together. And the trucks and the armies and the movement of the armies would go out on a particular road, and Robert Mueller would let the Allies know where all this was going. A particular road would take him over here, to the east or the west, whatever. And so he had a very, very important job to do, to let the Allies know where the troop movements were going, where the tanks were going, where the supply trucks were going, and it was an important job. And he shared it with his roommate who had tuberculosis. So they would each take 12-hour shifts and watch the traffic. Very, very important. They had a really good, important job. Then one day, when he is in his office, he looks out the window and he sees trucks pulling up, pulling over and parking, soldiers getting out, German shepherds coming towards the house, barking, screaming, carrying guns, coming in, and he thought, okay, this is it. They're here. He looked out, and it's so easy to look out the windows of our life and see the problems coming. We do not live, we have 60,000 thoughts a day. It used to be 40, but our minds have gotten so active we have up to 60,000 thoughts a day. The majority are negative. And to look out the window of our life and to see trouble coming and to do what this man did inspired me, and I knew that this teaching works. You see, I did not need to go to a church. That was the last thing on my list. What I needed was a life that worked. I was unemployed. I needed money. I mean, I needed everything in the whole world when I talked to Carla. And I really believe, sincerely, as I stand in front of you and speak, that this teaching gave it to me. I am so grateful. I have lived a wonderful life. And it is because I really believe of this philosophy. It inspired me to live bigger, and I did. So anyways, Robert Miller's looking out the window, and the soldiers are coming in the house. He can hear the secretary downstairs at a receptionist. He just no elevators in those days. He went up to the top, and he could hear the receptionist talking to the Nazis and the soldiers down there, and the dogs barking, and people coming in, and they're opening doors, slamming doors, coming in from all sides, surrounding the building. So he knows his goose is cooked in sorts, but then he remembers what his roommate did to get rid of TB. And he said, this is the same thing. So he went to the mirror in the bathroom, and he looked in the mirror, put on his beret, got his little cachet, because he had all the paperwork, and there he had to gather it, get it put away, put it under his arm, and he looks in the mirror and he goes, this is a thrilling experience. And he said his mind said to him, are you nuts? Thrilling experience. You've got people downstairs want to kill you. This is a thrilling, but he didn't give up. The faith kept. The inspiration kept. And he looked a second time in the mirror and goes, this is a thrilling experience. He said then the ego started to calm down. His soul started to emerge, and he started to feel a little bit better. And finally, he took the third time, looks in the mirror, and goes, this is a thrilling experience. Takes his cachet, puts on his little beret, walks down the steps. The secretary sitting at the desk just glared at him like, oh my God, you're walking in this hornet's nest. These people want to kill you. And he walked in there, had the little cachet under his arm, beret on, and he looks at all the soldiers in the room gathered there, and he goes, what are you doing here? I'm trying to work upstairs. All this noise, these dogs barking, your guns, all this craziness. I can't get anything done here. I'm going home. And he did. This is a thrilling experience. It never fails. It'll always be with us. It's why we came to the earth in the first place. We have accepted our duties, and we do them well because we're here and we believe, unlike the world, that this being in this room right now, this is a thrilling experience. Because we find out what we're made of, who we are. The very soul that you're sitting in that chair with knows this is a thrilling experience. And as we begin to listen to the inner, instead of reading the headlines in the newspapers, I'm giving my age away. I said newspapers. There aren't newspapers. I loved holding that newspaper. We know that in order to have a world that works for everybody, we not only have to recognize within ourselves the great spirits that we are, but recognize that everybody else has one too. And when we do, this life, and you don't have to wait for approval from the world, besides you'll never get it. The world will never, no, you're not going to get it. But you can give it to yourself. And what you do then is walk into a dark experience as a light. When you know that the reason you were ever put here in the first place was to make a world that works for everybody. And you can get rid of the darkness, not by fighting it, not by arguing with it. The thing about family dinners, I was sitting there going, oh my God, you should come with me. All my Catholic family. So as I sit down, now what is it that you're involved with again? You know, that's the question. How did I get on that? Oh, yeah, a world that works for everybody is up to us, not the world. And when we get that brilliance of knowing that life is a thrilling experience, no matter what they say, no matter what we see, no matter what happens. For remember, it's in the Bible. They scream about the Bible. They give quotes about the Bible. They take freedoms away from people with the Bible. And it says right in there, not in might and not in strength, but in, not in might, not in power, but in spirit, saith the Lord. That is a model I live with. You see things in the world, you see the spirit of the people of Ukraine beating the largest army in the world. And I don't mean to get political, and I don't get into sides or any of that. But we see spirit alive. You are that spirit. You are that light. And when you walk out in the world becomes a better place. Not because you convinced your relatives to vote for so-and-so. Not because anything happened that's that important in your life. But because you brought light where there is darkness. And do you know what that is? That is a thrilling experience. Thank you.
Yeah.